From Interior Alaska's most trusted news source, this is the Fairbanks Evening News.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. Even though budget cuts have stopped a lot of things, there might be a red flag exercise at Eielson Air Force Base this summer.
Now that's according to Alaska Senator Mark Begich. There are normally hundreds or even thousands of people involved in red flags, but Begich said this would most likely be a smaller version. Now Begich told the Fairbanks Daily News Miner he's optimistic the training session will take place based on conversations with Alaska Command Air Force Lieutenant General Stephen Hogue. One scheduled red flag exercise was already canceled.
Fairbanks City fire officials are investigating two separate structure fires that broke out in different parts of town Saturday evening, less than an hour apart. The first was at 6 p.m. at 485 Carlton Street in Shannon Park. Firefighters found smoke coming from an attic vent above the garage of a duplex. Little damage resulted, and the occupants of both apartments at the location were able to return home. Now, 45 minutes later, 3 people were displaced after a fire caused serious smoke damage to a duplex at 745 8th Avenue in downtown Fairbanks. Responders found heavy smoke coming out of the front door of the structure, which had an apartment on the first floor and a second one in the basement. One of the occupants said he had just arrived home from work when he noticed smoke coming from the structure, prompting him to call 911.
A call reported a structure fire. When we got on scene, we had a moderate amount of smoke coming from the residents. We had crews go in. This is a duplex. People went inside. They found fire. Right now they got the fire knocked down and they're in the process of checking to make sure we don't have any extension. Once they get the smoke cleared out of there, then the investigators will get in and figure out what we got.
And you're not sure where did it start, at the top or the bottom?
No, don't know anything of that until we can get in there.
City fire personnel got mutual aid assistance from University of Alaska and Fort Wainwright fire departments. The downtown structure was declared unlivable by fire officials due to heavy smoke damage. The American Red Cross responded to the scene to provide assistance. The cause of both fires remain under investigation.
The state has proposed new regulations setting out screening to gauge how well young students are reading. The Alaska Board of Education and Early Development is expected to make a decision on the proposed regulations next month. The legislature approved $320,000 for early literacy screening assessments. The proposed regulations call for districts to screen the reading levels of all students in kindergarten through second grade, as well as third graders who struggled with reading at the end of second grade.
Beginning this week, local firefighters will begin their yearly prescribed burns at several locations around the interior. The burns are part of a multi-year cooperative community wildfire protection plan that was enacted for the Fairbanks area. The purpose of the prescribed burns is to reduce the fire risk in Fairbanks and around the interior and to gear up for fire season in Alaska. The burns are set to occur in North Pole near Hallowell Road and the Salcher River drainage, the McLeod subdivision, Himalaya Road, and at the South Fork of the Chena River near mile 13 on Chena Hot Springs Road.
Seasonal employment is heating up in Alaska as the seafood industry takes on temporary workers. Summer jobs grow from 3,000 in December to more than 20,000 during their peak in July or August each year. Temporary jobs in the seafood industry don't just mean fishing, and many people come from the lower 48 with misconceptions about what it means to work in that industry. Many temporary workers are hired in processing centers to do everything from clean fish to cook meals for the workers.
Seafood is sort of the epitome of those seasonal jobs. I mean, there are fishing and seafood processing jobs all year long in Alaska, but there are way more in the summertime than any other time of the year. Numbers are only going up, and they're going to only go up for the next 3 or 4 months.
Still more to come as we get back. When we come back, murder of a former Alaska woman in Hawaii.
And a man talks about how smoking has changed his life. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Fairbanks Evening News. A former Alaska man has reportedly admitted to the Kauai Police Department in Hawaii that he stabbed his girlfriend to death. Kauai police arrested 26-year-old Stephen Michael Wilson, and he was charged with second-degree murder for allegedly killing 21-year-old Kendra Lewis. Her body was found in her room at a Sports Villa condominium. Now, police say Wilson told them he was involved in illegal drugs while living in Alaska and got Kendra involved when they began dating. He says he moved with her from Alaska to Hawaii around the beginning of the year.
The second annual Fairbanks Out of the Darkness Community Walk will be held Saturday at 10 a.m. at Pioneer Park. The walk is sponsored by the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention and raises awareness of the disease of depression and hopefully prevent the tragedy of suicide. Unfortunately, Alaska's suicide rate is twice that of the nation's average and even higher in the Native communities. For some, it is also an opportunity to remember loved ones lost. Donations are applied toward funding research, education, and treatment programs geared toward suicide prevention.
And right now we're showing with online donations right now, we have 50-some people already registered and have raised over $10,000 already. And all of this money goes to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, and it researches and develops treatments geared at suicide prevention.
Registration and donations are now being taken online at outofthedarkness.org, or you can register in person at the beginning of the walk.
Two major tour companies here in Alaska will be changing the way they transport their guests starting next year. Princess Alaska Tours as well as Holland America will have announced they will use much less time-consuming bus rides rather than the longer Alaska Railroad, which will give tourists more time and flexibility on their trips. They also announced that visitors will fly from Fairbanks to Dawson City rather than be transported by bus, again to better manage the time and make travel more appealing. The two partner companies say that the railroad expects no revenue loss from the changes, and those tourists can still choose the railroad transportation over the bus ride.
This month, the Centers for Disease Control has engaged in a public campaign educating the public in regard to the effects of smoking. To do so, they have enlisted 8 former smokers, including one from Juneau, as their national spokespersons.
Smoking gave me COPD, which makes it harder and harder for me to breathe.
Michael Patterson began smoking at an age many of us find hard to believe.
Well, I was 9 years old when I started. You know, when you're that young, I mean, I was grasping at independence, basically, and trying to feel more grown up, and it seemed like that's what grown-ups did.
At 9 or 10, smokers aren't yet addicted to nicotine, but the smoke effect is already doing harm to their body.
Everything that's in the smoke, the tars and all the oxidative products, the first time you start taking these puffs, they cause a lot of vasoconstriction. So these are just simple reactions where your blood vessels constrict. It raises your blood pressure, raises your heart rate. I guess part of what people like is that it raises your sense of awareness. You'll see folks use that all the time. It's like, boy, I kind of get a buzz off my nicotine. But all of that is kind of like overdoing it on energy drinks. You know, it's just the buzz is artificial and it's actually hard on your system.
The initial urge to smoke can mostly be attributed to peer pressure or stress, but remains clear the body doesn't well tolerate the chemicals introduced into its system.
And it doesn't want it. It's the airway irritation clogging up those poor little cilia or fingers, hairs that are on the cells at the microscopic level that help get all that spit forward so you can hack it out.
If your doctor gives you 5 years to live, spend it talking with your grandchildren.
Increased health risks begin immediately once smoking has started and exponentially over time. Health officials say the sooner you quit, the more able your body can bounce back from the disastrous effects of smoking. But if you don't quit by middle age, the health benefits begin to diminish.
After 40, the benefits, although still there, start to slow down, and even after 60 is kind of the next borderline when, you know, we're making a difference, but by then we've already accumulated so much damage to all the organ systems that our benefit still is very clearly there. I mean, we're still talking, 1 to 2 years of life easily.
For Patterson, he ignored all the dangers and the signals his body was giving him until it was almost too late.
I'm running out of time.
Now in part 2 of our series, we'll find out what exactly happened to Michael George Patterson, how that changed him, and how he is now trying to help others. That story concludes tomorrow on the Fairbanks Evening News and, of course, News Center Final.
And switching gears to sports, Joe, were you busy this weekend?
A little bit, spring's coming around, so some of the sports have died down a bit. But the Ice Dogs, they had their backs against the wall once again, and they like to make things interesting at home. They did in Game 4. You'll see if Fairbanks could keep their season alive, and we have the photo finish from the Chena River Run.
Oh, okay.
Nice one. That and more coming up. Hello, interior sports fans. Joe Cook here in the sports seat for you this evening. Hope you had a good weekend. And if you missed anything, we got you covered for this weekend recap. We start with the Ice Dogs. The biggest crowd of the season was on hand for the last Ice Dogs home game. After a scoreless first period, the Wild would get the top side of the scoreboard at the 12:27 mark of the second period on a Max McHugh goal. The Ice Dogs, though, they answered quickly. By quickly, I mean 13 seconds. Lawrence Cornelius scored on Robert Nichols thanks to the dish by teammate Taylor Munson. It's a 1-1 game. In the third, Wenatchee scores again. This one by Joe Sullivan at the 12:39 mark. 2-1 Wild, but the momentum for Wenatchee was shorter than Lawn Gnomes. Fairbanks answered 9 seconds later. Colton Walter made it a 2-2 game, and credit the nice assist to Brett Gervais. With 6:11 left in the game, a deflected pass finds its way to Garrett Clement, who makes a gorgeous pass to Munson, who taps it in, giving Fairbanks a 3-2 advantage. The Ice Dogs defense held off Wenatchee for a 3-2 win, sending the home crowd in a frenzy as the Ice Dogs win the critical Game 4.
Our backs were up against the wall coming into this game, and we knew we had to come out with an A effort. And I thought for the most part we did that, and every time they got a chance or scored, we answered right back, so that was good.
I was definitely surprised. I mean, definitely after that second one in the third period, I was like, oh, here we go. And then shortly after we got two, and before I knew we were in the lead, so it was definitely good.
That's the way it's been all year for us. Like, nothing's been easy, and I guess that's the way they want it. So, yeah, I thought we brought more energy to the game tonight, and we got rewarded for our efforts in the end.
Keeping our heads and just working hard, playing the game we know how to play. It's a simple game. Make simple plays and just play a simple, boring game. We should be able to do it.
And the must-win victory for Fairbanks ties the West Division Finals at 2 games apiece. In the locker room, the Ice Dogs coaching staff gave out game pucks to Perry, Cornelia, Doug Rose, Gervais, Zach Raw, and Munson. But Game 5 is where it all ends. A trip to the Robinson Cup in Frisco, Texas is on the line in Game 5 Tuesday night in Wenatchee. And the 33rd annual Chena River Run was Saturday in West Fairbanks, and over 700 runners showed up despite the cold temperatures. The start of the 5K was at Wood River Elementary School, and there was an exhilarating finish at Princess Riverside Lodge. Coming down the stretch, a fight for first place. Old school versus new school. UAF runner and skier Ross McDougal and Stian Stensland, and the elder Stensland walks down McDougal and wins by mere inches. What a finish. The women's race wasn't as close. Tara Wilkins was fresh off a first place win in last week's Autism 5K, and she wins again. Stensland talks about his exciting finish in the men's race.
I died a little bit there and they overtook me. But I was kind of like, okay, second is good too. But that's all. It wasn't getting any more distance on me, so I was, okay, let's try a last sprint. And fortunately, I was able to pass him right before the finish line here. So it's good.
There were some really great runners in this race, and I was just trying to tag along with them, and then ultimately was able to get past them with their phenomenal runners. So I wouldn't have done it without people that good running in the race.
And on Friday night, UAF handed out awards at the All Sports Banquet. Junior swimmer Bente Heller was named Alaska Female Athlete of the Year for the second year in a row. Sophomore Ryan Anderson of the rifle team was the Male Athlete of the Year. Heller, a 9-time All-American, became the first Natick swimmer to win a national championship in program history with her 100-yard backstroke varsity record swim in the NCAAs. She also set 4 records in other events. Anderson was tops in small bore and air rifle to lead the Natick into 4th place in the NCAA championships. The sophomore was a first-team All-American in small bore and second-team All-American in air rifle. The men's basketball team MVP was senior Dominique Brinson. For women's basketball, senior Taylor Altenberg. Senior Andy Toronto, now an Alaska Aces right winger, was the hockey team's MVP. Redshirt freshman Ross McDougal was the men's cross-country MVP. Allison McFeeters, the junior, was the women's cross-country and skiing MVP. The men's skiing MVP was freshman Michael Fahrenbach, and for volleyball, sophomore setter Caitlin Matea was named MVP. Now, please don't get mad at me. I'm just a messenger, but there are more game cancellations. The softball and baseball games scheduled for today, tomorrow, and Wednesday have been canceled. The Marlin Newby and Davis Field still aren't ready yet. By the end of the week, the hope is to finally have some baseball and softball games in the interior. This in an email by Steve Zanazzo, Lathrop's activities coordinator. David Klein, the AD over at Delta Junction, has made their field available if need be. We'll see how it all turns out for what will be an unfortunately very short spring sports season. And that'll do it for sports tonight. Thanks for rocking with me for a little while. Stay cool, Alaska. Mike Schultz has your full weather forecast coming up next, and we'll catch you next time.
Welcome back to Fairbanks Evening News, everyone. Mike Schultz with you once again for a look at weather. I got good news for you, Joe Cook. It looks like the temperatures are going to continue to warm through the rest of the week, which means drying out conditions. I think a lot of your activities are going to be kicking back into action once again. Our photograph for tonight, we're going to look at swans and geese down in Delta Junction area. This one's sent in by Fred Sheen, and you can see a nice, pretty shot there, although the snow doesn't look that great. Again, if you have a photograph to share, send it to Mike Schultz at KTVF11.com. What's going on at the airport? 40 degrees for a high, 39 currently. The sunrise and sunset, not quite 5 o'clock this morning, and it'll set this evening at about 10:40, giving us 17 hours and 41 minutes of daylight. A record high was 72 in 1951. 12 degrees in 1922 for the record low. Here's our satellite picture today. Just some mid-level clouds moving across the southern sections of the state. Nothing around the Fairbanks area, just mainly high clouds. That's good news. What's going on across the rest of the state? Well, pretty quiet for the most part. The rain that was falling all weekend long over southeast Alaska has abated. We're looking at mainly cloudy skies around Kodiak and Cold Bay. The only precipitation up on the north slope around Barrow, 30 degrees there, and a nice day in Fort Yukon, 37 degrees, lots of sunshine. Lower 48 weather, they have rain on the west coast, which is good for all the fires they've been having. That's good news. Elsewhere across the rest of the country, things are clearing out and warming up very nicely, 76 degrees in Minneapolis. Last week they were looking at about 8 inches of snow. There's the area of low pressure bringing the showers over the west coast, and a few more showers associated with the area of low pressure around the Atlanta, Georgia area, but nothing severe. That's good news. What's going to be lying ahead? Well, today you can see the showers widespread all over California, dampening the ground and cutting down the opportunity for more fires. That's good news. And the jet stream will remain way to the north, just moving across the Great Lakes. That's about it. Showers and thunderstorms, which you would expect this time of year, scattered across the central and southern sections of the country. Back to Alaska for tomorrow, northern sections. Snow likely for Barrow and Nome, and mostly cloudy skies in Fort Yukon. Here in the interior, a few flurries are possible around the Healy area, otherwise partly cloudy skies for Fairbanks. Over southeast Alaska, not too bad. In fact, nice and sunny skies in Juneau and Ketchikan. Look at the temperatures, 62 degrees at both Juneau and Ketchikan. And over the southwest, rain and snow for Cold Bay, partly sunny skies in Kodiak and Bethel, while over Anchorage, it looks like partly cloudy skies for Anchorage, partly cloudy in Valdez and Homer. Okay, it's a new week. Once again, time for some more kids. This week, we're going to be visiting with the kids from Hunter Elementary School, and tonight, a story about a storm.
One night, it was stormy at my house. My uncle and auntie came over. I asked my uncle to make me a sandwich, and he told us to come over by the window, and we saw lightning. It was striking antenna dishes. Me and my mom got scared. We didn't want our house to be struck by lightning too. Me and my uncle were trying to take a picture, but the lightning was too fast.
And tomorrow night, we'll have a couple of young ladies here to share a special picture with you. Here's your forecast for the remainder of the night. 21 degrees, scattered high clouds, a little warmer than it's been. And look at tomorrow's forecast, rising to the mid-40s, 45 degrees, but it gets even better on the 5-day outlook. Oh, we got to remind you, we're in the allergy report now from the Tanana Valley Clinic. You see low levels for all the way across the board, but believe me, my allergies will pick up really soon. I'll be able to tell you pretty soon just how bad they are. Okay, here's our forecast for the extended forecast. As you can see, lots of sunshine all the way across the board, and 60 degrees by Sunday with 50s all the way across the board starting Wednesday. That'll be good news for everybody, drying up all the puddles and also giving an opportunity, like I said, for those sports activities. Joe, I know you're pretty excited about that.
Yeah, finally, some consistently warmer temperatures, so hopefully.
I'm excited about that. Yay.
Yeah. And we're also excited about our special that's going on, right?
That's right.
Sure
KTVF and Bailey's Furniture are teaming up for a Spring Dream giveaway. We've been talking about it for a while now. You can win a furniture package from Bailey's worth $2,500.
Tune into the Fairbanks Evening News and News Center Final each night for the first half of the mystery word.
Click, then visit Bailey's Furniture for the second half and complete your entry form for your chance to win.
And we'll announce the lucky winner during the Fairbanks Evening News on Friday, May 24th.
All right. That will wrap up this edition of the Fairbanks Evening News. As always, we're glad you could join us.
Tonight on NBC Nightly News, Israel's weekend strikes in Syria. What was the real target, and how long will President Obama resist calls for the U.S. to get involved? That's coming up next with Brian Williams.
For all our news, sports, and weather, check us out online at webcenter11.com.
That will do it from all of us here at the News Center. We hope to see you back here at 11. Until then, have a good evening.